with the text. So this is the first line of man's first disobedience, and the fruit of that forbidden tree whose mortal taste brought death into the world, and all our woe with loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us and regain the blissful seat. Now, of man's, the very first words are very meaningful, of man's first disobedience. So he introduces the theme, the subject matter of his poem right at the beginning, and the fruit of that forbidden tree, the tree that man was restrained from eating the fruit of that tree, whose mortal taste, mortal is fatal, that the taste of that fruit was mortal, that it was fatal, it brought death into the world, that they would die after that, and all our woe, that it was the cause of all suffering, all the misery, with loss of Eden. Eden here refers to the paradise, that because of eating, since that was the act of disobedience on the part of man, so man lost paradise by eating, by doing that act of disobedience to God. Man, Adam tasted the fruit of that forbidden tree and received death and all misery and suffering of this world, and lost finally what the most important thing, and lost Eden also, lost paradise, till one greater man. Now here one greater man refers to the Christ, restore us and regain the blissful seat. Blissful seat again is a reference to paradise, is again a reference to heaven. So till one greater man restore us, that Christ, one greater man is a reference to Christ, that Christ came and he took all that sin on himself, and he was crucified, and because of that, since he paid for the sins of Adam and Eve, so it was possible, so man would get that seat back, so would enter heaven again. So paradise, man was able to enter paradise once again. So it discusses the theme, the subject matter right at the beginning. And if we look at the first two lines, there is alliteration in that. First and fruit and forbidden, these sounds are starting with F. Now F is a fricative sound. So Milton uses alliteration in the at the right at the beginning of the poem. He repeats the f sound, the f fricative sound in the first two lines. Sing heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Oreb or of Sinai didst inspire that shepherd who first taught the chosen seed in the beginning how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos, or if Sion hill. Now he is invoking the muse, and it is unconventional that usually in those times the tradition was to invoke the one of the 9 muses. He is not invoking in the name of any of those 9 muses. He says, sing heavenly muse. He is invoking the Holy Spirit. He is invoking in the name of God, that on the secret top of Oreb and Sinai. Now Oreb and Sinai are these are the two names of the mountain tops where Moses received the law, and its spur on these two mountains. So that is why it is known as secret top, that since it was secret because the ordinary people were not allowed to go on to the top of those mountains, and Moses used to go there in order to get the laws, the rules for the people. So didst inspire, so the poet says that inspire me, O heavenly muse, inspire me the way Oreb and Sinai, these inspired Moses, that shepherd. Now that shepherd refers to Moses, who first taught the chosen seed. Chosen seed refers to the ancient Jews. So who taught the ancient Jews, the people of the Israel, in the beginning, how the heaven and earth. So it was Moses first who taught the people of the Israelis that how was the earth and heaven created, rose out of chaos, that how heaven and earth was created out of nothing. Or if Sion Hill, delight thee more, and Silos brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God, I thence invoke thy aid to my adventurous song, that with no middle flight intends to soar above the Aenean mount while it pursues. So he is invoking in the name of the Holy Spirit. He says that inspire me, help me, the way the secret top of Oreb and Sinai inspired Moses, who first told the Israelis about the creation, about the beginning of the earth and heaven that was created out of nothing, because the traditional belief was that this earth and heaven was created out of nothing and it was purposeless. Or if Sion Hill, delight thee more, that if that hill makes you happier, and Silas brook that flowed, and that stream that flowed fast by the oracle of God, that and the stream that flowed by the oracle of God, by the house of God, I thence invoke thy aid. I ask for your help. I invoke in the name of your help to my adventurous song. He calls it adventurous song because here it is reference to the lines of Virgil's Aeneid and Homer's Odyssey. Also there are similarities in these. He says that this is adventurous song because this is something that nobody has ever attempted, that with no middle flight intends to soar. So it is going to be go as high as the it is going to go high above the Aenean Mount, because since that mountain is a very sacred mountain. He says that my adventurous song is sacred than that mountain top, while it pursues things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. So he says that this is the subject matter that I have chosen. It has not been dealt with before, neither in poetry nor in prose. In prose and poetry, it is believed that this ironically recalls, it refers to the Ariosto's Orlando Firoso, that even in that work it has not been discussed. So he clearly states that I am going to undertake the subject that has not been discussed in any form, neither in poetry nor in prose. So for this, this is the reason he calls it adventurous. Why adventurous? Because when you go on adventure, that means you have not done that thing before. आप उसको पहली बार करने जा रहे हो. And chiefly thou, O Spirit. And he says that specially the Spirit that dost prefer before all temples the upright heart and pure. So he says that, O Spirit, I invoke specially in your name, who come and help me, that dost prefer, that prefers to live in the pure and innocent hearts instead of temples and churches. Instruct me, teach me, for thou knowest, you know all. Thou from the first wast present, and with mighty wings outspread. That you are the one. He says that you are the one who was always present. You are the first one who was present. So you know everything. You were present there, and you are all powerful. So basically, with this presence and with showing that with mighty wings overspread, it shows the omnipotence, omnipresence of God, of the Holy Spirit. He says, dove-like settest brooding on the vast abyss. He says that you have the control over everything, over the hell, over the paradise, over all parts of it. So you know better everything than me. He says that and madest it pregnant, what in me is dark, illumine, what is low, raise and support. He says that, you are the one who would fill this hell, who will make it filled with. Now, what will this hell be filled with? It will be filled by the sinners, by the people who will commit such evil deeds, like Satan has rebelled. So his ultimate destiny is hell. What in me is dark. So what he says that finally, what is dark in me, he is referring to his knowledge, that I am low in as far as knowledge is concerned. Illumine, enlighten it. What is low, raise and support. Whatever is dark, make it lightened, and whatever is low, raise the level of my knowledge, that to the height of this great argument. He says that I may assert that, do help me, so that the argument that I'm going to talk about, I may prove the kindness and the love of God for man, and I may be able, through this, I may prove, I may assert God's kindness, His care towards the human beings, and I may be able to justify that God is just in His ways to human beings. Now till this line, from line 1 to line 26, this is the invocation. First, Milton states clearly that what is the subject matter, the theme of his poetry. Then he invokes in the name of muses, and all these 26 lines are filled with references and they refer to different things. If we have a little a look at it once again, one greater man refers to the Christ, and death into the world and all our foe. This has got significance in history also, that in Virgil and Homer's works also, it said that it brought all this misery. So this is something conventional, this is something traditional. He is following the traditional writers, the way they used to write. Then Arab and Sinai, these are once again the classical references. Then chosen seed refers to the Israelis, the people of Israel. Then in the beginning, once again, if we compare this with Genesis and Gospel, the opening words, they are the same. In the beginning, these are the opening words, and it has got its significance. Once again, out of chaos is it was the belief that God created world out of nothing, but Milton had held an opposite point of view. He said that he did not, God created the world with some purpose. It was not without any purpose. It was not created out of nothing. When he says that an aid to my adventurous song, so it will be of great help to my adventurous song. Once again, it has got this significance that it resembles, there is similarity in Virgil's Aeneid and Homer's Odyssey. So these phrases that have been highlighted, most of them have got allusions. Most of these are references to the classical works of great writers. In prose or rhyme, here it ironically refers to the Aristos, Orlando and Frioso. So in these first 26 lines are very important. These discuss the first part of an epic, as we have discussed the elements of an epic in Spenser's Fairy Queen also. Any epic states the theme or the subject matter of the poem right at the beginning. He has done that in the very first line. He says that of man's first disobedience. So this is the subject matter of the poem. Then he says that why he is writing this poem. He says that it is to justify the ways of God to men. Another important element of an epic is invocation to the muses. Now, this is not a traditional epic, since there, as we discussed the characteristic features of his poetry, that there is a cosmic sweep of theme. So he did not invoke in the name of the 9 muses, one of the 9 muses, or out of those muses, he invoked in the name of the Holy Spirit. So this is something unconventional, this is something untraditional, and this proves the universality of theme in his poem Paradise Lost. Say first, for heaven hides nothing from thy view, nor the deep tract of hell. Say first, what cause moved our grandparents in that happy state, favored of heaven so highly, to fall off. He discusses, first of all, when say first can be compared with Homer's invocation to the muse in the Iliad. He says that what is the reason, that what caused our ancestors to our grandfathers, he's talking about Adam and Eve, that they were placed in a very happy state. They were living in paradise, and they could, they were favored. They were favored that they had the control of that world. What caused them to fall off from that highest seat? And he says that heaven hides nothing from thy view, nor the deep track of hell, that you know everything, whatever happens, whatever takes place in the heaven or in the hell, in the deep chaos of the hell, you know everything. So you are all omniscient, omnipresent, you are present everywhere, you have all knowledge, you know about everything. So he says that say first, that guide me, so that I could tell that what is the cause that made our ancestors who were living in that happy state, who were living in the paradise at such a high place, what caused them to fall off from that high seat, from their creator, and transgress his will. So transgress is to deviate. For one restrained lords of the world beside. So he says that it was only one thing that they were restricted not to do. Otherwise, they were the lords of the world. They could do anything that they liked. So they had the control over the heaven, except from eating the tree, the fruit of one of the tree. So that was something that they could not do. That was forbidden for them. What made them do that? They violated these instructions, and they fell from that highest seat. They fell from heaven. Who first seduced them to that foul revolt? Said, who was it who made them revolt against it? Who was it that persuaded them to revolt against God, to not to follow the orders of God? Who first seduced them to that foul revolt? So who was it who made them do this act of disobedience? The infernal serpent. Now first he raises the question that what was the thing that man was asked only not to eat the fruit of one tree, otherwise he was the lord of the world. He had the control all over the paradise. So what was it that made them do that, and who was the person who persuaded them to revolt against the orders of the God? The infernal serpent. So it was the serpent from the hell. He it was. Now serpent from hell, this refers to Satan. He it was. So it was he who made them, who guile, stirred up in envy and revenge, deceived. So it was the serpent from hell, it was the Satan who deceived them out of revenge and envy, because he wanted to take revenge from Adam and Eve, and he was envious of the position because Adam and Eve had been placed in the heaven. So he wanted to take revenge of that position. So he deceived them. The mother of mankind. He deceived whom? The mother of mankind. Mother here refers to Eve. So he deceived Eve what time his pride had cast him out from heaven with all his host of rebel angels, by whose aid, aspiring to set himself in glory above his peers, he trusted to have equaled the Most High. So what he wanted to do, he deceived Eve and he wanted to get back heaven, and for that he had taken the help of the rebel angels who were his followers, and with their help he wanted to rise above everyone. He wanted to have the glory, he wanted to excel in glory above his companions, above his followers, and he wanted to have the glory that of equivalent to the God. So that was the reason that he did all this, in order to take revenge. In order to attain that glory equivalent to God, he did all this. If he's opposed and with ambitious aim against the throne and monarchy of God, raised impious war in heaven and battle proud, with vain attempt him the almighty power hurled headlong flaming from the ethereal sky. So what happened? What was the result? If he opposed, if he did not follow with ambitious aim, he had that aim in the mind that he is going to have the power equivalent to that of the power of God with the help of his followers. So he had revolted against that, and he had started a battle. He had started a war in heaven, and it was useless. What did the Almighty do? The Almighty threw him into the hell, which was a burning lake of fire. From the ethereal sky he was hurled into the burning lake of fire, and he was lying there headlong, and it was all flaming with hideous ruin and combustion down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire, who dost defy the omnipotent to arms 9 times the space that measures the day and night. So what happened? What the condition of the hell is described here, that it was a miserable destruction, and what happened in that state? To bottomless perdition, there to dwell. It was the hell, the burning lake of fire of hell was bottomless, and he was supposed to live there forever, and he was in unbreakable chains and in penal fire. He was miserable in that fire, who does defy the omnipotent to arms, and he basically, it was the result of his fight against the war and against the powers of the God, and it was 9 times the space that measures day and night. It measures the depth of the hell, that it was 9 times the measure of the day and night. 9 times the space that measures day and night to mortal men. So men counts it as 9 days and 9 nights. So it is equivalent to that. He with horrid crew. Horrid crew is his companions. So his followers, his companions, lay vanquished, rowling in the fiery gulf, confounded though immortal. So he was confounded, he was living, he was lying in the fiery gulf of the hell, and he was defeated, but his doom reserved him to more wrath. And his fate, he was destined to receive that fate, and it stirred up the anger of God. For now the thought of both of lost happiness and lasting pain, and what the idea he was having in mind, he was thinking about the lost happiness, because he had lost the happiness since he was living in heaven, and all that happiness which he had when he was living in the paradise, he had lost that. And lasting pain, why lasting? Because he was now in hell, and he knew that this pain of living in hell will continue. It is never ending, it will continue forever, torments him. So this makes him more miserable, more this makes him suffer more when he thinks of the situation, that he thinks of the happiness, of the bliss that he had when he was living in the paradise, and when he looks at the position in which he is lying now, the pain and suffering and misery of the hell, it torments him. Round he throws his baleful eyes. So he looked around him. He had a look at the through his sad, sorrowful eyes. He looked around him that witnessed huge affliction and dismay. Affliction is the misery. So he looks at the misery, the suffering, and dismay mixed with obdurate pride and steadfast hate. So what was there? That he had the pride and he had the hate, immortal hate that would never come to an end, and he had the sadness. That sadness was mixed up with his pride and with his immortal hate. At once, as far as angels can he views, as far as he could view the range of his eyes, he could see, since he was an angel, so he could view, he could see the far off place things also, the dismal situation, waste and wild. So as far as he could see the angels, the situation was very gloomy and sad, and it was all waste and wild. Waste and wild here refers to the sad and gloomy situation that it now he had to make the plan that how to overcome this situation, because now he was thinking that he is in a state that he can never get rid of. A dungeon horrible. Dungeon is a prison. So it was a horrible prison. It was a bad place to live. On all sides round, everywhere what he could see, as one great furnace flame. It looked as if it was a furnace. जैसा कि कोई अंगीठी में अंगारे जल रहे हो, तो उसको बिल्कुल एक अंगीठी की तरह से अपने हर तरफ बहुत दूर तक उसकी निगाह जा सकती थी और वो देख सकता था. उसको बहुत एक सैड सिचुएशन नजर आ रही थी. Yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness visible. And when there is fire, we usually have light. We associate light with fire. Since it was in hell, क्योंकि ये हेल में थी, जहन्नुम में थी, इसलिए वहां पर कोई लाइट नहीं है इन फ्लेम्स के साथ. रादर इन फ्लेम्स के साथ वहां पर मजीद डार्कनेस है. मजीद डार्कनेस वो देख सकता है. Served only to discover sights of woe. So with that darkness he could see the miserable sight of it. Regions of sorrow, doleful shades where peace and rest can never dwell, that they could never find, because rest and peace can never live there. Hope never comes, and hope is also something that could never come to that place, in such a dark place, because with hope we always associate light. लेकिन वहां पे जो आग जल रही थी, इट वॉज सच अ डार्क प्लेस कि उसकी वजह से उसको हर तरफ उससे और भी ज्यादा एक सैड सिचुएशन नजर आ रही थी. उससे उस डार्कनेस में वो मजीद जो चीजें देख रहा था, वो उसकी सफरिंग में, उसकी मिजरी में, उसके मेंटल टॉर्चर में इजाफा कर रहे थे, और उसमें रेस्ट या पीस नाम की कोई चीज नहीं थी. होप नेवर कम्स. That comes to all. That comes to all here it is a reference to men. कि ह्यूमन बींग्स आर ऑलवेज होपफुल. इंसान तो हमेशा होपफुल होते हैं. अब वहां पर होप नेवर कम्स. क्यों? बिकॉज इट इज जहन्नुम, इट इज हेल. उस हेल में होप कभी नहीं आ सकती है, जो कि आम इंसानों को आती है. बट टॉर्चर विदाउट एंड. सो व्हाट कम्स देयर? टॉर्चर, दैट मिजरी, सफरिंग. वो सफरिंग जो अनएंडिंग है. स्टिल अर्जेस एंड अ फायरी डिल्यूज fed with ever burning sulfur unconsumed, such place eternal justice had prepared. So this was prepared for them, and it was what type of a place it was? It was full of fire. It was a fiery place, and it was ever burning. हमेशा जलती रहेगी, जैसा कि उसमें कोई सल्फर की ना खत्म होने वाली सप्लाई जो है उसको फराहम कर दी गई, एज इफ इट हैड सम सप्लाई ऑफ सल्फर विच इज अनलिमिटेड, विच इज unextinguishable. This was the place that eternal justice had prepared for the fallen angels, for those rebellious. So for whom it was prepared? It was prepared for the rebels, people who would revolt against the commandments of God. So since Satan and his followers, they rebelled against God, so their destiny was to lie in hell forever. Here their prison ordained in utter darkness, and their portion set as for removed from God and light of heaven, as from the center thrice to the utmost pole. Oh, how unlike the place from whence they fell. So here he is making a comparison of the place also, that it is such a different place. It is just the opposite of the place from where they have fallen, because they had fallen from heaven. Now heaven and hell, these two are the complete opposites. They are exactly opposite of each other, as we have the day and night. जिस तरह से वो एक दूसरे के opposite हैं, इसी तरह जन्नत और जहन्नुम, heaven और hell दोनों के इसी तरीके के opposite हैं. And he says that as far removed from God and light of heaven, and it was removed from light. There was no light of heaven. There was it was removed from God, from the kindness, from the care of God, as that from the universe of from the center of the universe to the North Pole. That was the distance between heaven and hell. So here he sets the proportion that it was thrice the distance between the center of the earth to the North Pole. That was the distance between heaven and the between heaven and hell. Here the light of God and light of heaven refers to heaven. So it measures the distance between heaven and hell, that it was thrice from the center of universe to the northern pole. So he says that, oh, how unlike the place. It is very different, very opposite the place that they had fallen from, because earlier Satan had lived. This is Satan. So he is thinking about all this situation, and he thinks that it is opposite to the place from where he had fallen, because in heaven there was no such thing, and now he is there to suffer that eternal misery. There the companions of his fall, overwhelmed with floods and whirlwinds of tempestuous fire. So in that place, in that fire, lake of fire, his followers, his companions who have fallen with him, overwhelming with the flood and the whirlwind of fire. So they are suffering from that fire. He soon discerns, and weltering by his side, one next himself in power and next in crime, long after known in Palestine and named. So he says that named Beelzebub. So he looks around him. He soon discovers that the one lying next to him in power and next to him in commandments and order is Beelzebub, who is known as the god in Palestine. So he starts addressing him, and after this, today we will discuss only line 1 to 80 of the Paradise Lost, and in the next lecture we will continue from line 81, and we will see that it will follow Satan's first speech, because so far the description that we had, this is the thinking of Satan, that he is thinking about the scene, that whatever is around him, he is looking at the situation and he is making sort of comparison with the situation that they were earlier in. He is making a sort of comparison of heaven and hell, और उसके जो differences थे और उसकी जो ideas हैं वो उसको compare कर रहा है. And after this, we'll start with the speeches of Saturn, because he will address his followers, and these speeches of Saturn are the best speeches. They are excellent speeches. They are uncomparable. If we look at them from the point of view of analysis, we will find that he has got the heroic qualities in his speeches.